let's check out this video where Billie Eilish talks about her Tourette syndrome to Ellen about 2 years ago.
You have Tourette syndrome and that it comes out at certain times. But I think that's amazing that you spoke about it, because you kind of take away the, scariness of it.
It's something I've lived with my whole life, and everybody knows, like everybody in my family, all my friends, all the people that are closest to me know I have it, and it's not anything different, And I just never said anything because I didn't want that to define who I was. I didn't want it to be like, the artist with Tourette's, Billie Eilish is on Ellen.
Yeah.
I have ways of kind of making them go away.
Right. Well, no, I think like I said, I think it's a good thing that because I'm sure a lot of people have that, and it's look at where you are and look at what you have accomplished.
In this video, Billie is quite reserved about her Tourette's. She says she doesn't want people to automatically associate her with Tourette's as soon as they see her. She wants to be seen as an artist despite her condition. That being said, of course, with her being in the spotlight, it's very difficult to ignore the fact that she has come out and said it. Now, she also mentions that she has a way to suppress her tics, which is very interesting. So first, before we can go into how she suppresses her tics, we need to know what a tic actually is and what Tourette syndrome actually is in the first place. Tourette syndrome is part of neuropsychiatric disorders known as tic disorders, and it is a combination of motor tic as well as vocal tic. It is to do with a disorder of somewhere called the amygdala inside the brain, which helps to regulate people's kind of fear and anger, and people with Tourette's can sometimes have small outbursts which come across as rude. It is not intentional, and people with Tourette's are not doing this because of an inner hatred for a certain kind of person. Just to reiterate that, let me show you this video from this morning showing one of the worst cases of Tourette's and how this man, who seems like a perfectly nice, genuine man, could be pushed to saying and doing something that is totally out of line with his personality.
I will go around town and I almost pulled a lovely lady's hijab off, telling her it's too warm for a scarf.
Now, as you can imagine, it's obviously very distressing for both him and the lady with the scarf, the fact that he could do something like this, but he does not have control over the condition. So how do you get control over the condition? As with most things in medicine, the treatment can be many-fold. You can have conservative, you can have medical, you can have surgical treatment. Tourette's comes in waves. People who have Tourette's describe it as this rising feeling which you need to get out. They say it's almost like when you have an itch inside your nose and you need to sneeze. And unless you let that sneeze out, that feeling will keep going and will start to disrupt you. So there are a few ways that the psychotherapy for Tourette syndrome actually works. So a lot of them are behavior alterations, trying to figure out what triggers the tics, where, sometimes people, when they're tired or when they're stressed, the tics come on and become more prominent. So getting adequate amounts of sleep, etc. And also trying to figure out what triggers the tics to get worse. Sometimes it's other things, being in a certain environment where it's loud noise can also trigger people to get tics. This is called habit reversal training. Another type is called exposure and response prevention, which teaches you different ways to actually deal with the feelings when they arise. Things like stretching your arms rather than performing the action that the tic is pushing you to do in an impulsive way. Medical treatments tend to be around things like antipsychotics like haloperidol, or even newer generation ones like risperidone, and then surgical interventions control the cyclical impulses that the brain produces by something called deep brain stimulation, where an electrode is actually put inside the brain and can take away the tics as well. Obviously, those are the conventional medical treatments, the things that have been researched, but there is plenty that's not known about Tourette syndrome, and certainly the medical field needs to advance in that department. Now, going on to Billie Eilish and her tics, she mentioned in the video that she controls them somehow before she goes onto stage. What does she use? Does she use psychotherapy? Does she use medicine? Does she use surgery? Does she have an electrode in her brain? No, she doesn't. Actually, the thing that she uses and finds works for her is essential oils. Take a look at this video.
What is it?
I take attack now. I don't know why though. It's been like coming on all day, but I can't
Do you want oil?
Yeah. Mom, do you have the essential oils?
Yes. Put it on your pulses too so you can... Okay.
Yeah, those are...
And some water. Everything while it's folded is
Ah!
Okay.
I don't know why the
Keep it
lights
out.
are like really making them like...
Really tired probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
I've done some crazy shit because of my Tourette's. I fucking broke a glass once in my mouth because of him. Because I have this one where I'll bite down on something. Like, if I have something, I'll just go really hard. Just because my brain is like, do it.
That was taken from a short documentary called The World's a Little Blurry, which is on Apple TV. You can go watch that if you're interested in more about her. So clearly she'd had a stressful time, lots of planning, and so she needed to just let all the tics out. As you can see, it's quite distressing for her to have to do that on camera. That being said, you know, obviously with someone of her notoriety, these things will get out there eventually, and it's actually very beneficial for people with Tourette's to see that someone as successful as Billie Eilish could achieve what she's achieved while still having these. Now, if you notice, at the end of that video, she asks for the essential oils to be given to her. Now, if you don't know what they are, they're actually just a blend of natural things that have quite strong, pleasant smells, and it can help be relaxing to anyone. You don't need to have Tourette's to enjoy essential oils. She says it helps and it stops her tics from actually occurring, and she actually can use them before going on stage to control her tics. Looking in the scientific literature, there is nothing that supports or has even researched the use of essential oils for people with Tourette syndrome. I find that interesting, but I can understand why it's the case. Think about this for a second. Who actually funds scientific research? Because obviously research is expensive. You need to recruit patients, sometimes pay them. You need the clinics, the doctors, everyone to run the trial. It's a multidisciplinary approach to actually getting these results. Someone has to pay for it. Most of the time, honestly, it's pharmaceutical companies or research bodies which are funded by pharmaceutical companies. This is true even in the UK. So what does that mean? Well, when you have something like essential oils, it's non-patented, right? Anyone can come and essentially start selling essential oils. They're everywhere. You can buy them in Holland & Barrett, which is, for those of you who are elsewhere, it's just like a natural health shop. And you can even buy them in the supermarket. So if you're a pharmaceutical company, will you spend millions, even billions, looking into something that you cannot profit on? The answer? It's a resounding no, of course not. So these could, in theory, actually be effective treatment for Tourette syndrome, and we don't know, and we'll never know. You can apply this to many other things. For example, cannabis. There's been plenty of evidence that cannabis actually suppresses the same areas that Tourette syndrome is affected by, and it would, in theory, become an effective treatment as such. But pharmaceutical companies can't sell cannabis, at least not in the UK. And so, again, why would they pay to research it? It makes you wonder about the motivation for carrying out certain trials, which is sad because obviously as a doctor, I want to do the best thing for my patients, and now I don't know if that is a good treatment. I don't know if I should be recommending it, and I can't recommend it because there's no body to support me. That being said, there's no adverse side effect from using essential oils. And if you do have Tourette's or know someone with Tourette's and you'd like them to try it, then I will leave a link in the description below and you can have a look and see if it works. Worst case scenario, it smells nice and it's relaxing. Best case scenario, it actually does help to control the tics, and you potentially avoid going on to medication that may have more serious side effects.
My mom has a lot of essential oils, and to be honest with you, they do help. as stupid as I thought they were as soon as she pulls them out. Every single time she pulls them out, I'm like, oh, mom, with the essential oils. And it's such a stupid idea, but she opens them. And if you just smell them, sometimes you put them on your wrists and you go like this, or if you put them in your hands and you smell them, you can put them on your temples. Like, they actually really do help. And it's such a small thing to have to do that it's so low maintenance and so not a big deal. And such a stupid idea, but it really does do a lot for just one moment, you know, before a show, after a show, when you see something on the internet that, you know, puts you in the wrong headspace. It's just like you just smell something. And for me, I've always had a really sensitive sense of smell. And so smells really, really, really trigger a lot of different emotions. It can be really bad emotions or really good ones. So especially essential oils really help. And here I am like preaching about how good essential oils are, but for real, they help.
And a lot of the time she mentions that she pre-arranges when planning shows about different times that she can have the tics. Things like when she's not in the limelight, she can let the feeling out and then continue with the show. Now take a look at this stage show that Billie Eilish has done where they actually cut out the lights so that she can relieve herself and then continue. Now the thing I love about this video is that she is still being cheered on by the crowd. Yes, the lights are out, but you can still see that she's having tics there and that she's stopped performing for a moment. But the amount of applause there is phenomenal to see. Sometimes the media agencies that she's working with are actually trying to get that extra publicity, and they know that if they put out a video with some tics in it, then they're going to get that, which is unfortunate for her, as it's her wish that, you know, a lot of these things you know, don't get released too much into the public.
So if I'm on if it's like an on-camera interview or whatever.
That's what this is.
Yes, it is. But normally if it's like a pre-taped thing, they cut out the questions.
Right.
And that's when I let them out. But then there was this one interview where they didn't tell me they weren't gonna cut the questions out. So I'm sitting there answering the questions like, and then they start asking me a question and I'm like, and then everyone's like, that's so funny. And they made a whole, there was tons of compilations like, this is so funny that Billie did this facial expression, when really it's just a bunch of tics. Right.
I really want this video to kind of help to spread some awareness about Tourette syndrome, what it is, how people deal with it, and to help anyone out there who is suffering from the condition know that actually it shouldn't be able to stop you doing any of the things that you do want to do in the future. Now, many people who have Tourette syndrome in their adulthood actually do grow out of it. Lots of people, it stays similar. Some people, it may even get worse, but those are the minority. So that if you are young in your teens or even a young adult, then there is hope that things will improve with time. And even if it doesn't, there are also other ways to control your Tourette syndrome. If you do need more information, the NHS website is an extremely valuable resource. Now, I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Next week, I'll be talking about Jeremy Paxman, who's just been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So make sure you stay around so you can enjoy that and benefit from learning about a new condition. I've been Sir Med, and I do really appreciate every single one of you giving your time to watching this video. We've been growing so quickly here, and I hope that this continues. You guys seem to be enjoying the content, and if you have, I do really appreciate a like. Best of luck, stay healthy, stay happy, and I'll see you in the next video.